the communication architect, Cynthia Correll.
Thank you, Glenda. Thank you. So I'm just wondering if there might be anyone in this room today who is interested in growing their business or maybe expanding their sales. Cool. So what I'm going to do is share with you some strategies that I've used to help me grow my business and also strategies that I use to help my clients. And you're probably, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that I'm probably going to talk about digital marketing. Well, I'm not. What I'm going to talk about are some other strategies that I see. I love digital marketing, but there are also some things that we forget about that we could be using for, and are we okay? That we could be using to grow our business. And so don't we all have blinders on at times? You know, we're so busy working in our business, we don't always take time to work on our business. And we maybe don't think about other strategies that we could use to grow our companies. But there's so many other strategies, and today I'm going to talk about three. One is to do with clients, one is to do with expertise, and the third one is about services. So I'd like to take you all on a mini voyage, a real voyage of discovery that's not about new landscapes, but it's about seeing with new eyes. So what we're going to do over the next few minutes is actually work on our businesses. How does that sound? Yes. Okay. So what I'm hoping at the end of this time together is that you will actually gain a new perspective about your business and maybe some ideas that you can implement. So at the end of your tables, there's some forms turned over. If you would pass those out. So I'm going to put you to work. These are some worksheets that you can follow along and take some notes if you like. And we're going to start with the first strategy, which is drive the client evolution. So the first thing I need to do is explain my illustration here. It may seem kind of strange. So when I look at these light bulbs or light sources, I think about how my client base has evolved. So I started out with the candles. I started out working with people who were just starting their businesses like me and maybe had a little bit of a budget or no budget. You know those people? And then we evolved to the incandescent light, which is the solo entrepreneur. And then the fluorescent light is maybe the $1 million business. Maybe they have 10 to 20 employees. And then the LED lights, that's where we all want to be, right, is working with the larger companies that are doing some exciting things. So how do we evolve? Now, without thinking, my business has evolved to the fluorescent light, where I'm working with companies now that are the $1 million companies, 10 to 20 employees. But I still have a few of the solo entrepreneurs, and there are always people that are just starting out. And we want to help all of those people, don't we? But be conscious of our time, the time we're spending. Because we could end up spending 80% of our time at the lower end of the scale. And we really want to be working up towards the higher end, right? Isn't our goal to get to the higher end? So one of the things we can do is to raise our fees. That is something that often works that we don't think about doing. But we can't just add zeros to our fees, we've got to add value. So that's an important thing to consider when you're raising your fees. The other thing is we have to think about letting go. I have a client who is a career coach. She started out working with students. Now she has high-end executives that make $500,000 a year, and she's concerned about serving her students. Now, you can serve the students, I told her, but do it in group settings where you're not using as much of your time. And I love to still give back. Whenever I meet people who are starting out, I'll give them all the advice I can possibly give them. But another way I found the trend that is happening for me now, instead of doing one project at a time, more and more of my clients are asking me to do monthly services or a retainer. So that is something to consider. If you're doing a lot of one-at-a-time projects, how can you turn that into a reoccurring service? And then ultimately, what my goal is beyond that is how can I turn that reoccurring service into passive income, right? Something that makes money while I sleep. And that's a whole nother subject. So make a note on your form if you like. Think about how you will intentionally drive your client evolution. Maybe just being aware of it will help you be more intentional about it. And I'm going to move quickly on to the next one. I'm going to give you more time at the end. So the next strategy is about sharing our expertise. One of the comments that I heard here at E4E was that someone loved coming here because we share our trade secrets. Isn't that true? Don't we just love to come here and learn from everybody? The more that I have shared my expertise, the faster my business has grown. And so when I hear people talking about, well, they're so aware of their time, they don't want to give away a lot of information, there's such a great payback to that. And remember, whatever information you're giving away, it doesn't necessarily mean that that person can implement it. They might need your help implementing it. So be free with your expertise. And the way I do that is with 3 business communities. Now, E4E has been my mainstay. I owe everything to E4E. Thank you, Bill. And so volunteering, participating, presenting, these are ways that you can share your expertise. Gateway to Dreams, thank you, Karen, is where I got my start. And again, it's a wonderful organization. I got a lot of great clients. Medici, Josh isn't here today, but with Medici, I was able to take my business to the next level. And one of the ways I did that was I volunteered an impromptu workshop on how to create a one-sheet. And from that, I got all kinds of referrals. My reputation within that organization grew. So I can't emphasize enough that the more you help people, the bigger return you will get for your business. And one good example of that is 5 years ago, I started the branding clinic at Gateway to Dreams. I offer this one-on-one coaching, branding coaching session for free for anyone who is a member of Gateway to Dreams. Well, last year, a woman came to me. We had our session together. Very professional, very capable woman, did not have a job, and she was thinking of hanging her own shingles, so we talked about how she could do that. The next thing I knew, she was hired as a principal of a commercial real estate firm and brought me in to do lots of projects for that firm. So you never know where the payback is going to come. So think about how will you share your expertise? Will it be one-on-one? One of the things about the branding clinic was I just created my own gig. So that's another thing you can do. Maybe there's something you've always wanted to do, and some of these communities are a platform for you to do that. So now we're going to go on to the third strategy, which is about adding more services. So I can see you're all real excited about this idea, right? Because if we add more services, that's just more work, that's going to cost, that's just going to be a pain in the neck. Who wants to do that? Well, this has been one of the best ways that I've been able to grow my business. And it's by thinking about what are the client needs, not just how I'm serving my client, but before I serve my client, after I serve my client, what are some of the services that the client needs? And it's so much easier to become a full-service operation than you would think? And the answer is partnerships. And by partnerships, I mean very informal partnerships, handshake partnerships, or in this case, high-five partnerships. And there are ways that you can come together and work together without having any paperwork, but it can create so much synergy, as I experienced, and I'll tell you about a few stories. So my first one was with Karen Libby, who owns Image Media. She is a website designer, and I'm a branding specialist. And I kept referring my clients to her for their website design. She kept referring people to me for the brand strategy that they needed before they did the website design. So eventually we said, why don't we partner? We had the same work ethic, and we had complementary skills, which is really key. What we did was we created products. We created an assessment tool. Instead of just doing a proposal, we designed a way that the client or the prospect would actually pay us for the proposal. We designed an assessment, and the result of that assessment was an action plan. The action plan had our pricing on it. And what we did was we created separate pricing lists and project lists. We asked the client to pay us separately. So we had this amazing partnership that existed without any formal paperwork, and it really worked. Being a solo entrepreneur, it's wonderful not to fly alone, right? And we energized each other. And then, and to the point, wouldn't you expect a web designer and a branding specialist to create their own website? We actually called our partnership Build Business Studio and had a website, and we developed a process. And then Karen went off to work with Medici, and so that came to an end, but I ended up following her and joined Medici and met Brett Klein. Brett created Medici Marketplace, and he had his company, and I had my company, and what we found was we created one product together. So our product was brand strategy. So instead of having two different things the way Karen and I did, Brett and I were working together on creating the brand strategy. And the way that worked was he would be at the whiteboard facilitating, taking some notes. I would be seated at the table with the clients, and I would be facilitating from the table and taking notes, and then together we would produce the deliverable, which we called the brand strategy playbook. And we did that, dozens of times. We worked really well together. And then he decided to go back into the corporate world. So currently, I have a new client who's a manufacturing company, and he needs a website. So when I was meeting with him, instead of saying, well, I can do the strategy part, I said, let me give you a proposal for that. Because I've worked with Will Hankey and I've worked with Kara Gamber, and I put together a proposal that was a one-stop solution for his website, where I did the strategy, Kara did the design, Will did the hosting and the SEO, and in this way the client didn't have to be going and shopping all these different things himself. And we're hopefully we'll hear very soon on that proposal. So what I'd like you to do is take the next few minutes. How much time do we have? Where's?
You got 10 minutes.
Oh, thanks, Dale.
11.
Okay. So what I'd like you to do is maybe take the next 5 minutes at your tables and be thinking about how would you add more services? What does your client need? And who would be your partners? The other day I realized with a client that I have currently that I need to start cloning myself and finding other communication architects. And fortunately, I'd met someone at E4E that I thought was a great possibility. And so we had a meeting this week, and we've already started working together. So there's another partnership that is in the making, another way of looking at it. Now, I could have looked at hiring just a writer, someone who writes anything, but I think it's going to be a good move for me to start thinking about how I can clone myself and train someone to do the work I'm doing alongside me. So as you're thinking about these additional services, think about some of those things. Take a moment to write some notes for yourself, and then see if there might be anyone at your table that might be able to help you with some ideas for a possible partner.
I'm a licensed brain.
But let's see if anyone has anything they'd like to tell us about. I heard a couple of people as I was walking around saying, oh, that's a good idea. So maybe they'll tell us what that was.
Yeah, Cynthia, Jim here does his business is providing leadership training through runs at elementary schools that are also fundraising events. But those are just tools to get to the leadership education to elementary schools. And one of the things that we talked about here at the table in creating the evolution you were talking about was taking all the information about leadership and breaking it into tiers so that maybe they're age appropriate for one grade, and then the next year they're coming back and dealing with the next level for that particular group of kids, and building that evolution that continues evolving because every year kids are moving up.
Cool. Who else has something? Gail?
Actually, my buddy Rick here came up with a great idea. We all have different partnerships. We all have different relationships or industries that are good for us as far as being a referral partner. And sometimes the partnership goes one way, and that's okay. And sometimes the partnership can go both ways, and that's really cool because it makes both people feel really good. But to be able to really qualify who do you want to meet, what industry is good for you, because then you've got that information quickly whenever somebody says to you, who do you want to meet? Because all of us know some of those, but if you don't really drill down to those of us, then I don't know who to help you with. So I kind of walk away without being able to give something back to you. So that was ours.
Very good. Anyone else? Well, I hope, Dale?
Yeah, if I may, I'd like to comment on the evolution thing, because something that worked really well for me when I was providing part-time chief financial officer services is I would say to a client, you don't have to worry about this now, but expect this to surface later on as you grow and expand. And then I would tell them a time frame, 6 months, 3 months, a year. And it was amazing. Didn't matter what time frame I told them, they almost cut it in half. It's almost like, why am I not here having this problem yet? And I found that I could actually have some control over the volume of business by the time frames that I indicated in that comment.
Wow.
So it's a way to create that evolution.
Cool. Bill?
Somewhere along the line, I don't know where I got this idea, but when I'm working with clients, I want that client to imagine that they can't possibly think about doing business with anybody but me. So how do you create that mindset in the client's eye as you become incredibly valuable and you solve a lot of problems for them? But that's the ultimate retention tool, if you will, is if you can provide that kind of a wide variety of services, they're really they're going to be reluctant to change to another company. And so to me, it's a remarkable retention tool.
That's so well said, Bill, and something I've learned from you, hopefully along the way. One of the things I've done recently with one of my clients is that I recommended that we have a weekly telephone call. And what that does is it keeps you in touch with them, and whatever is on their minds, you can be checking in with them and suggesting additional services and so on. Well, my time is up, and so whoever has a question, I'll be happy to chat with you afterwards. And feel free, at the bottom of the sheet is my contact information. I would love to talk with you about expanding your sales horizon. So just let me know how I can help. Thanks so much.